welcome to the first median edition of Joy's Intellectual Spot with me, Joy Wama. Today I'm very euphoric and apologies for commencing late. We had a little bit of technical issues, and you know when you're getting online, these are some of the things that are inevitable. I am super euphoric today to introduce to you a very special and wonderful lady. She's an intellectual, a politician, a former banker. She's a mother, and a spokeswoman. So, before much ado, I'd like you guys to give a round of applause to our very own Honorable Nene Freda Gomez. Welcome, madam.
Thank you very much, Joy.
All right.
I'm honored to be addressed honorable.
Oh, of course, you're an honorable.
I'll take it. This is what I root for, when women uplift women. So This is just an example of that.
All right, thank you.
I'm elated.
All right, that's great. So, when I went through your resume, I was like, oh my God, you've been an all-rounder in the industries. You've worked and had over 25 years of work experience within the territory of the Gambia, and especially in the banking sector for 20 years. How has that been for you before we delve in depth into our conversation?
Well, it has been exciting, and I think it is what has molded me and prepared me for who I am today. So definitely I cannot talk of Nene without the banking industry. And of course, this was also due to great, strong, independent women that I met when I joined the industry, who really were so much of a cheerleader to me, encouraged me, and of course, here I am today.
Yay! So that's pretty interesting. When women uplift other women, the sky is more than the start point for us, because as women, we are mothers and we are groomers, We ensure to uplift our children. A mother that belittles the child isn't a good mother, I would say. So today we'll be discussing our major topic will be the role of women in the upcoming, I like to call it Game of Thrones, being the presidential election. So if we have noticed from the First Republic, we have observed that there have been very minimum percentile shift of electorate participation and transition towards the Second Republic, who gave more opportunities to women, and the Third Republic has been the same. They've been movers, shakers, king and queen makers. Hence, they've been more or less like the major individuals. Women that have been registrants of about 800,000 women that have been registrants for this year's upcoming election. So I'd like to first of all give a brief definition by Karl Marx as Marxism, which is being a social, political and economic theory originated by Karl Marx, which focuses on the struggle between capitalists and the working class. And I'm glad you've been in the industry, you've been a working class woman. So overall, it's distinctly clear that women participation has steamed prosperity towards Africa. African countries enjoying democracy, with about 50% literate women in Gambia engaged in different ramifications towards sustainable development agenda and growth. So today, the following we shall be discussing on the labor relations, especially gender parity. And having been in the industry, I just want you to tell us from your political perspective and as a working class woman, could you tell us how you see the labor industry in the Gambia?
Thank you very much. I think that question is really apt. I will first of all say I was a working class mother before I got myself into politics. That is just of recent 2016 counting. But I started work very, very early, right from high school. And as a girl child in a developing country, in a country where culture and religion dominates everything, where culture and religion determines who you are, where you go, what you do. It's kind of a challenge. And of course, if we go in depth into the conversation, I'm sure we will come across those challenges and of course maybe talk about solutions. But women, we're the majority in this country. But if you look at the workforce, we are the last. Mostly we're not into skilled labor, but unskilled labor. If you look at the percentages, it's like more women are into unskilled labor. And of course, I want to relate that to the lack of education, the illiteracy rate in women. That is the reason. So definitely we have a long way to go. We're really far off. But I'm thinking, I'm an optimistic kind of person. I'm hoping that things are going to change, because I've already seen that happen with the likes of myself getting into politics, trying to join to make our voices heard, and be able to speak for a lot of women who cannot speak, or rather who don't have a voice to speak, to ensure that women are catered for. Because if that is done, then we begin to address the issue of women being left behind, the disparity, the lack of women participation. It's all going to be addressed. So we will start to see the beginning of a solution.
Okay, so great. It's pretty interesting that over the years, a lot of women have, had the opportunity to start venturing more into what we call the working class sector, banks, insurance companies, etc., which is an amazing field to be in. But I'd like to take you towards manufacturing a little, because it's one key engine for growth for every nation, although in Africa it only contributes about 16% to our gross domestic product, of course, and in Gambia it's about 4 to 6%, but you see it's quite minimal in terms of the contribution. Now, over time, women in these industries, and not just women, men alike, in 2018, a company like the Gambia Milling Corporation faced some challenges with the then government, and part of it led to the removal or the redundancy. Most of them underwent redundancy. About 200 staff went on redundancy. So, as a female politician and as a representative of the Citizens Alliance, I just want to know what your government would do should such happen during your leadership, right? Should I say?
Like I said, I joined this crusade to represent women in all aspects, to be a voice for women in all areas. I mean, I think Gambia Milling is a very good example, and I happen to know the company very well because and I've dealt with them for a great extent. So if you look at the company, it was a huge company that was really employing a lot of staff. But then again, the majority of the staff were men. You only have few women. And of course, it's just like in the administrative area and not really into in the factory itself where production was being done. But we go back in the schools. What do we teach in the schools? That you need to learn the sciences to become a doctor, a teacher, or an engineer. Those kind of areas. That's what we promote. We don't teach skills training. We don't teach technical fields to prepare these students that when they go out, these children, when they go out, it's not only a matter of being in an office to work, but you should be able to go out there and open up your own company as a plumber, as a mason, as a carpenter. All these things we don't teach them. That is what is lacking. So as such, we don't have these manufacturing industries and entrepreneurship. Is really, I mean, if you go in the West, that is what drives the economy, private sector. But here in the country, we only depend on civil service, the government work, the how to call it, parastatal, which is really not going to do it for us. So we need to really go back to the grassroots and see what we teach students. How many lawyers do we graduate every year? But where are they going to work? All of them cannot open their law firms. How many doctors do we graduate from the School of Medicine? But where are they going to work, all of them? We already know we have a deplorable health care system in this country. So what are they going to do? And at the end of the day, they go to school for 5, 6, 7 years, get out, they don't have a place to work. Do they have to change their fields all over again? Okay? I mean, it's not like they can go open a pharmacy and work, or they have the capital to even open up their own business. So we have to really look at the grassroots out there. How do we prepare these young ones for tomorrow? Okay. Like my president always says, you don't build a country today. You build the country, in the next 25 years. You start building it now. You start preparing for the next 25 years. You start it now. You don't wait until 25 years, then you start thinking, what do we do? So that's what we need to go back and look at. How do we prepare these young ones for tomorrow? And once we do that, I think we'll be able to see this change starting to happen. Okay.
Well, yeah, I totally agree that it's important that women are also pushed towards the production sector, because manufacturing in itself, we have seen that the greater tribe have been from women. Really, if you go to these furrows, etc., most of the labor had manual labor being done by women, and there's a need to upskill and upscale their skill sets in order to improve their standard of living, of course. So in the case of redundancy, now I'll take you back to redundancy again. Most of the time, it's either you know someone that suddenly started working, and within a very short span period, you notice that the person is no more employed. So I just want to know, what are some of the roles of women in such case?
Can you go back to your question? Yeah. Can you please
clarify.
Elaborate more.
Okay. So, for instance, you did mention about how important it is to upskill the skill sets of women so that they can as well fit in certain sector, like the STEM sector, for instance. During production, they should know what machineries are there, or they could either be part of the quality assurance in the production sector. Yeah. So I now said that I'd like to take you back to redundancy a little. Redundancy in each household in Gambia, maybe 7 out of 10 homes, each you go, you will find someone that used to work before and suddenly stops working without any legal tender, etc. So I just want to know, in your government, how would your Citizens Alliance government work with the Labour Commission to ensure that such cases have been handled daily?
I mean, I'll go back a little bit. You talked about women being in the production sector, maybe in gardening specifically, you mentioned and all that. But when you go back to those are not mechanized ways of doing agriculture or gardening. Basically, they're just doing those things to feed themselves. Is it enough to sell and make money out of it or make a living out of it? No. So basically, it's just a survival means. It's just a means of surviving, maybe because they don't have a job. They don't have the money. They're not working. Maybe their husbands are not working. What do? Fall back in the garden to grow something and be able to harvest it and feed themselves and their families, if at all any of the kids are even going to school. So in a Citizens Alliance government, what we're trying to do is we will try to centralize the role of women. We have talked among ourselves and put policies in place that women in a Citizens Alliance government will not be sidelined. We understand the important role that women play. We believe that women, like you've mentioned, are not only kingmakers or queenmakers. Women are it. And in all areas. If you look at the civilized world, for lack of a better word, all countries where women have led, we see how progressive those countries were. We see how developed those countries have been. And I'm not going to sit here and say corruption doesn't happen. It's everywhere, but at least it's controlled. There's systems in place. All you need to do is to put the systems and the structures in place that everybody will be able to live by and follow and do things. And that is what is lacking here. And that's why myself and many other great women in this country that I look up to, that I admire, are really speaking out and saying it's about time. Enough is enough. It's about time that you give us our dues. And we're not even now asking for people to give us. We're trying to take. That's what we're doing, because that's where we are right now as women, to just take and be where the decisions are being made. Because imagine if at a table you have all men trying to decide on affairs that affect women, how would that look?
That would be Anyways, it's pretty interesting because the issue of labor and employment relations have been like it's always a hot topic across the globe because especially in a country like Africa where we face a lot of harassment, disparities, etc. Lack of equity as well. In one of your interviews, I did hear you mention that in the Citizens Alliance, your voice are always alluded to, and especially if it makes a lot of headway, your opinion is very well respected, which I'll applaud your alliance for that. That would take us into the access to entrepreneurial, financial, women-centric programs. From your background, I understand that you were a banker before, which means definitely...
Yeah, a banker, isn't it? A banker turned politician.
No, well, I mean, a banker turned politician is even best for us because we know that you can be more accountable to us, especially with the issues of finances where most people have a lot of mind-blowing results out there to say, okay, if a budget X, Y, Z is at this amount, what happened afterwards? Why would you need a surplus, for example, and all of that? And
supplement the bill all the time.
You know what I mean?
Twice, 3 times in a year.
Yeah, so that becomes a bit absurd when people hear it. But because of your background, I'm very confident that it's important that people like you get into politics, and it makes it sweeter, isn't it? So, over time, you hear a lot of entrepreneurs say, well, I'm an entrepreneur, I have great ideas, I have great initiatives, and part of the problem that we face is majorly lack of finance.
Capital.
Lack of finance, access to finance. And sometimes you tell them, well, there are different initiatives in Gambia where you could tap these resources from. But I just want to hear from your perspective as someone that's been in the industry and have met quite a number of entrepreneurs and potentials. And so I just want you to tell us your perspective about how entrepreneurs could gain access to finance, or what are your take about the entrepreneurial industry in the Gambia?
I mean, this is an issue that has been a long-standing issue, and it affects mostly women. If you look at it, like I said earlier on, starting this program, there are factors or challenges affecting the empowerment of women and women taking leadership role or being in leadership or the front role. Yeah. Simply because one of those is the cultural and the religious. Yeah. And if women or the girl child is taught from an early age, a young age, that if you have the opportunity to go to school, expect that you're going to stop at a certain level because that's where you belong, that's where you're supposed to stop. And when you stop there, what you need to do next is to get married, is to get children. And even if you have to work, your area is to the saloon or restaurants. We've been defined to own or to fit in a certain category of the workforce. So you grow up believing that. You grow up being confined. Okay, so you don't have this mindset of I can explore a whole lot of things. So basically, you just don't know, because what you don't know, you cannot really do well in it, or you cannot even have the confidence to delve into those kind of things. But I mean, for do I say the lucky ones? Because I'm one person who really does not believe that luck exists. I am one person that believes that luck is opportunity meeting preparedness. Because something happens right now, if you're not prepared, it will pass you. So there's nothing like, oh, I'm lucky, I'm a million. If you fold your hands and sit in your house, sleep every day, you're gonna eat. And believe me, you might be kicked out of your house if you're paying rent. So basically, everybody needs to work. People need to do something to get something. So if you are one that maybe have been lucky to go to school, be educated, and then you finish school and decide you want to get into entrepreneurship. You don't want to work for anybody. You want to have your own business. Now, you might have the idea. You've gone to school. You've mastered all the skills, the theory, whatever. But now it's to put it into, practicality. You want a business. You need the capital to do that. And you need to have the contacts. You need to have the networking. Now, in the Gambian context here, it's very difficult for even banks to give loan to women.
Why
I
is
mean,
that?
a man will go to the bank and be able to get a loan. Simply, one reason also is lack of collateral, because every bank is asking for a collateral, a security. How many women own houses that they can really put up as collateral to banks? It's either your husband's or it's either your father. And we know when it comes to religion or cultural, women really don't inherit a whole lot of stuff. If a man inherits maybe 3, I think, when they do this, how do you call it, sharing of family properties, men get more than women get. So all those things are factors that has hindered the progress of women in regards to being who they need to be or they ought to be. But things are changing. Things are changing on a very, very slow pace though. We have a long way to go. A lot needs to be done. A lot is desired for. And like I said, being optimistic again, I'm hoping that if more women speak up, if more women get up and get on this bandwagon and get into politics, because everything else, politics determines it. You don't sit and say, oh, politics is dirty, I don't want to be part of politics. Then you leave your life, you leave your destiny to others to decide it. So women need to get up and speak for other women to be able to be in the decision making and also decide and pave the way that the direction women need to go. So it all falls back to that.
Okay. Well, that's pretty interesting that women, given shorter opportunities or very minimal opportunities, because I like the example that you gave, especially with sharing of properties. If women are not really given what they truly deserve, how then can they truly ascend to the top? Because ascending to the top means you have to be well geared. You must have all the prerequisite tools in order to help you move and shift from spot A to spot B. And so that said, I feel that a lot more. I am just acknowledging what she said, that a lot more needs to be done in that sector, and more provisions for women-based funding for entrepreneurial growth, especially.
The field is not level. The field is not level, so to say, because if the field is level, then you can even begin to compare, but you can see all the advantages and the disadvantages, the advantages in favor of the man and the disadvantages towards the woman, how it is. So basically, we're not on a level playing field in regards to that. There's a lot of disparity, and the gap needs to be closed. Yeah, the gap really needs to be closed, and, we will see.
Okay. Well, again, I totally agree that the gap needs to be closed, because let's say, for example, in the consultancy industry, we see quite a few women really thriving and doing well in that industry. We look at the agricultural sector, we see that more or less women are, in fact, women have always been the hardest workers since 1930s, since the longest time immemorial. Women have always, worked pretty hard to ensure that food is on the table, children are well groomed, well mannered. So everything always falls back to the woman. So now, if this has been the case, the women have been undergoing a lot of deteriorating treatments, etc. How would women be treated in the Citizens Alliance government?
I see you. You always like to bring it to the perspective, Citizens Alliance government.
Yeah.
Well, it's really simple. I said earlier on, we will establish what we call a Women in Leadership Development Program and set solutions. The quota system is one of the things that since women have been really thriving, women have been fighting, we really do not have to fight to belong. But since this is the situation, we have thought, okay, we create a quota system that it's an automatic fitting.
Yeah, sorry, for the benefit of our viewers that may not know what quota system is, could you give them a definition of quota system?
It's going to be something that it will be agreed. Right now, I think there's this women advocacy group that is really advocating for such to happen, especially in the next election. Mm-hmm. And when we say a quota system, then you say like there's an automatic 20% or 30% or 40%, whatever number is being agreed on, that this is the number that women will automatically feel or occupy. So basically, men will not be contesting in those areas against women. It's automatically women.
So they're about what percentage would you give to women in the Citizens Alliance government? I'm sorry for interjecting, but it's very interesting.
That's okay. See, for us, we believe women have great potentials. We don't want to really confine them to a number, because we believe they're bigger than that. They're better than that. Okay. So at the end of the day, right now we are really practicing that in Citizens Alliance. Okay. We have a constitution. We have policies or documents that guide our operations, and you can ask anybody else who's a member of Citizens Alliance. Maybe you might say you're the spokesperson, you're really speaking for Citizens Alliance, okay. You can speak anything against them, which is not me, because if it wasn't, I will tell. Okay. And if it wasn't, I will not be there. Or, because that also questions me being a woman and saying that I want to be a voice for women, and condoning or accepting anything that is not for women. Yeah. Or that is really not to the interest of women. Yeah, it would really not make sense. But in the Citizens Alliance right now, of course, we are not in government. We are very hopeful that we will be the next government. We are the futuristic party, and we have all it takes. We have done the work it needs and requires to be the next government. But before that, right now, what we do is in our constitution, you will see that, women and men are really considered equally. If you look at the percentage of women in our executive, it's not a matter of quota system. It was vied for. We went for elections and women win. I'm the first spokeswoman first woman to hold the position of a spokeswoman in the Gambia ever in a political party. No political party has ever given a woman the position to be the voice, to be the face, to be the link between the party and the outside world. First of its kind. So, Sophie Emon Sahmone. You have that our national woman president is a woman, Fatou Sonko. Our secretary general, because our structure is our party leader is different from the secretary general. The secretary general is a woman. The deputy youth, national youth president is a woman. So, and another thing that we also pay close attention to in Citizens Alliances, any position held by a man, the next will be a woman. It's an automatic. That's how we draw up our constitution. So it's not even a negotiable thing. So you can tell how important we would really want to uplift and build women and show that you are it, and you need to belong in everything that we do. So basically, when we sit at a round table, it's not a matter of all men talking about the affairs of Citizens Alliance. You have women who also speak in regards to the perspective of the woman. Because I believe the woman has a holistic thinking way of thinking. When we do things, we're considering everybody. The child element, the woman element, the man element, the country's element. We think about everybody, as opposed to men. They're specific in their thinking. They just want to get something done, and they think about it without even thinking about the consequences of who and how it will affect anybody else. So this is one thing that Citizens Alliance has really acknowledged and really working towards implementing and walking the talk. In regards to anything that do with women.
So guys, you heard her say that in her party they walk the talk, and it's pretty impressive again to know that she, amongst all the political parties in the Gambia, she has been the first most fortunate to be or hold the position of a spokesperson. It's high time women are given opportunities, they have voices, especially when they've been opportune to gain formal education, allowed and exhibited. There's nothing wrong with it. You help a woman develop her once, man, you help in the entire continent. Because my mom will say, woman na taxi, get bust up. So
not all sides you go.
You see what I mean? So when you develop a woman, it's impressive. I mean, especially I saw your son, and your son has already started taking leadership position. So you see, it takes us to the point that when you develop a woman, you give her the possession or allow her possess her possession, then you can upgrade and uplift a lot of young male leaders, female leaders alike. So now we go and we're going to be centered now on your party's agenda. Over time we did saw that there was the political debates, and each party did mention some of their priority sectors, etc. And it will be pretty interesting for you as the spokesperson to give us, let's say, 5 centric points. That would be the point of focus for the Citizens Alliance government in the upcoming Game of Thrones, of course, the election, because it's really been tight lately. We've seen the likes of the UDP carrying out their activities, and other key parties, NPP, APRC, coalition, etc. But before I even move into that, could you tell me if the Citizens Alliance, you guys have any potentials of collating with any political party, or you're still going to maintain your stance?
I wouldn't. It is possible. Let me put it that way. There's a possibility because the dynamics have changed. We believe we have the potential. We believe we have the support base. We believe we have what it takes to get into number one Marina Parade. But the dynamics have changed. And of course, when parties talk, I'm going to go solo, or I can go to State House. Sometimes it sounds a little bit selfish, because if you say you are in this for country, if you are in this for the people, not partisanship, not self-serving interest for whatever reason, you might be able to listen to the people, you listen to the voice of the people that you will be serving. So at the end of the day, where we are right now, the dynamics have changed, and the dynamics have changed because of several factors. But one key one is that this merger between the APRC and the NPP. We do not really have to delve into history or what has passed, but it is out of necessity that parties are really consulting and engaging to form, they might call it a merger, an alliance, a coalition. I do not like the word coalition nowadays because it leaves a bitter taste,
From 2016?
I know, right? So if we can come up with another word, I would prefer. But again, the decision is to, the people that are really talking, and whatever they're going to come out with. We are asked for, at the level of our party, it's not a matter of being the next president as for the case of our flag bearer and presidential candidate. It's not a matter of being in a coalition that at the end of the day we're looking to share positions on here and there. No, that's not the case, because again, case in point, 2016, where are we right now? We are looking at a coalition that, of course, will change this current administration, this current government, but again, be able to do the reforms that we failed to happen, or were being promised and did not happen. Because without those reforms, we're going to continue to just go in circles and not get there. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. The civil service needs to be reformed. The security sector needs to be reformed. There's a constitutional reform that needs to be done. So looking at all of that, if it's not done, we are not going anywhere. We're still using the 1997 Constitution, which we all know. First among those, there's no time limit. So we are just trying to tell anybody, come and be president, and you sit there till thy kingdom come. That's not a democratic process. When you talk about democratic, you talk it and live it. You have to put it in practice. So we need to make sure we have a constitution that will really have this term limit, to show that anybody that vies for the presidency and gets in there, you only have a certain time to work. And when you don't do what you work for 5 years, and people will now analyze and review and think, okay, whatever he or she has promised, has he done it? Then we can give him or her another 5 years. If not, we take you out and get somebody else. It's just like you hiring somebody to work for you. You give them a TOR. You expect them to live after the TOR. You do appraisal. At the end of the day, if they fall short, see whether it's something that you can work with and allow them, give them another time. If not, you let them go and bring somebody, because you're paying them. And it's the same thing with the presidency. We're paying you. We provide everything for you. And we expect you to govern. We expect you to provide service. If you don't do that, there is nothing else we should do but to kick you out and bring somebody else who we expect that will live up to expectation and do a job. So that's what we, at the level of Citizen Alliance, we are looking at. I mean, that's not the only way. You have the National Assembly, you have the local government, you have the councillors, mayorship, the chairmanship. So basically, it's not only being part of the government in cabinet that you can only help a government. You can help a government in different ways. Because if you're in the National Assembly, you control it. Basically, the government is going to dance to your tune, and you'll be working hand in hand. And if you are a person that is really holding the government to account, you'll be able to really make decisions that they will be forced to look into or abide by to ensure that the citizenry are being catered for.
So, just a follow-up question. So far, what is the Citizens Alliance doing to support the present-day government?
Well, holding them to check, holding them to account, because we are in opposition, we are not in the government. So none of our members is part of this current administration, is a minister or whatever. So basically what we can do as citizens is not dancing to their tune, it's not singing their praise like we see a lot of people do, because maybe being there butters their bread. But of course, putting forward their lapses, their errors, the gaps, calling it out. And I think we've really been setting the pace. The first political party that has consistently had monthly press conferences since our inception to look at issues that affect Gambia and Gambians, the life of Gambians and Gambia, and bring it to the forefront, speak to the citizenry for them to know, because it's only an informed citizenry that can really do well or choose right or hold the current administration to account. They need to be sensitized, they need to be informed, and that's what we do as an opposition, to inform the citizens so that they know what the current government is doing right or not doing that they should be doing for them to really hold them to account.
Yeah, well, I love the part that you hold them as, you help them put themselves in check. Now, a lot of people could say that because Citizens Alliance is an opposition party, they want to, they are going to be saying all of these things in order to gain the attention of the masses, etc. Now, my perspective now would be, what specifically from the lapses that you have identified from this government, what solutions have you tried to put forward so far? Because I remember in your earlier communication here, you did mention that it's not just about a government carrying out its tasks, it's a supportive, it's a bandwagon that we all have to support each other, etc. So I just want to know, from the lapses that have been identified so far and from the press conferences that you guys have been given, what solution from the list that you've identified, what solution have you brought in one or two of this that have been identified so far?
Okay, let's remember there is a role of a government. There's so much that an opposition or political party can do. There is so much that is not really the job of an opposition party, because they are not the people, or he or she, whoever the leader of the political party is not the one that our taxes are being paid to. So whatever they do, it's out of concern, out of consideration that political parties will embark on certain projects for individuals or communities or places. But as opposed to the government, we pay your taxes, our taxes to a sitting president or government, not the president per se, but the government. Of course, the president is the head. The administration or the government borrows money in our name, in the name of the country. And we expect that those monies that are being borrowed will be put into use to benefit us, the taxpayers. And our taxes, we expect that you will plow it back into projects that really will be beneficial to us. And governments are giving grants and gifts in the name of the country, not an individual. So we expect that those will be plowed back to developmental projects that will benefit the citizenry. So it's quite different. So when we hold that government to account, because that is where our mouth is. So you put your mouth where your money is. Yeah. Those are our monies. And if you really are not putting it where we expect you to put it or where you should put it, definitely I think we have the right to come out and cry on top of our lungs and say, hey, this is what we expect you to do, or hey, this is what you're supposed to do. What are you doing? Just to try to bring their minds back. Because you can't just keep quiet and say, I'm an opposition because I'm not in power. I can say, if I say, they'll say because I'm an opposition. They will say it, we're in a country that even if you are dancing in water, they will say you're throwing dust on them. that doesn't mean you shouldn't dance,
Of course.
especially when you hear music. You're still gonna dance.
Of course.
Exactly. So that's the difference here, but notwithstanding. I mean, I see political parties in this country who are really doing so much that they really don't have business doing. It should be government's responsibility to do that. We see political parties building boreholes in communities.
Yeah.
I mean, if government really set their priorities right and ensure before buying a pickup truck that is costing 1 million that can build maybe 20 boreholes in a community. And of course, it's a small community that's having maybe 20, 30 houses. Each house can have a pump in their house and open in the morning or night, and there will be running water instead of trekking 5-7 kilometers to a specific place to get water from a well where all the people, the animals, are getting water from. So that's different. But we see political parties doing it because it's out of concern and consideration that we have a government that is not doing what they're supposed to do, so they take it upon themselves to do it. And also it speaks well of them that if you're doing it whilst you're not yet in power, what are you going to do when you're in power? Yeah. So it is really different. So basically, governments are supposed to govern. Governments are supposed to provide services to the citizenry and not expect to compete with oppositions what to do for the citizenry and what not to do. It's their responsibility. It's their business to do so.
Okay. Well, government, you hear it's your business to take care of your citizenry. Notwithstanding, you're always going to be held accountable by your opposition parties, and not also withstanding that your oppositions would also be working on projects for a follow-up. Should they be in government, they would as well continuously help in the upliftment of Gambians, the citizens of the Gambia. So we'll take me to my final question before the end of this beautiful session that I've had with you.
I know the time has been short, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't even want to stop because it's amazing speaking with you, right?
I didn't realize we have used so much time.
Yeah, well, me too. But okay, so it's funny when we look at the consumer price index of the Gambia, and we see that the price index is set $1.25. What would be your final wordings point within this, economical factor of dismay to most Gambian families? Considering that $1.25 really.
I like when you say really. Are we getting anywhere close to getting out of that mess?
Yeah.
Not anywhere close. So we need to embrace ourselves for the worst unless there is a change, and we will hope that with a breath of fresh air, there will be change. But let's be real. What do we manufacture in this country that we export?
Soap.
Excuse you?
Soap.
Is it exported?
Well, yeah. To some, Amy is exporting sometimes.
But to what quantity?
Yeah.
Because that matters. What we bring into this country, basically we bring everything. Whatever you make here and export, how far is it going and how much? If you look at that Amy, I'm sure she's struggling. Is she being helped? Does she have the equipment to produce in large quantity? Because the more you produce, the more your gains will be. But if you produce in small quantities, the overheads will really eat up everything else you have done. So basically, we need big, large-scale factories, industries that we will produce and be able to export. Even the small export countries that we have here, you will realize that they're foreign-owned.
Yeah.
And whatever they do, they produce, whether it's sold here or export, the monies leave the country.
Right.
It doesn't stay here. So all that contributes to all these, issues that we are facing. So basically, we really need to harness the resources. I mean, the Gambia is blessed with so much talent, so much resources that we really need to harness and plow back. We need to really tap the talent in our young ones. We underrate or do not know how much talent we have in this country. We have the resources, just the marine resources, the sun. People leave their countries. Which one of us travels to any country to look for sun, or to sunbathe, or to look for a beach?
I don't.
People pay.
I don't even think about it.
Yeah, you have enough of it.
Really?
Exactly.
Yeah, of
People
course.
struggle. They don't have it. They
Yeah.
come here. But at the end of the day, we really are not. We only have this style of tourism, seasonal tourism. When are we going to move away from that and have all year round tourism? When are we going to start to have all year round farming and not only depend on the rain? You know, mechanized farming, irrigation. We have the water. Yeah. Why can't we do that? We have the sun where we can create the energy to be able to power our irrigation machines and so the farmers can farm. So basically we really need a paradigm shift. And it all boils down to leadership. It needs a leader, an empathetic leader, a leader who has vision, a leader who has direction to be able to understand all this, because you really need to do a diagnosis of the issues, the problem facing Gambian, the problems that why we cannot have agriculture all year round, the problem why we cannot have tourism all year round, the problem why, our young ones are leaving this country, going, preferring to die in the sea than to live in this country. You diagnose and find out. When you know the problem, then you sit down and consult with experts to create solutions. And that is what Citizens Alliance has done through our manifesto, through our 10-point plan, to diagnose the issues, the problems of this country, and really put those things in a small document that even the layperson in Kabada can read and understand and know, okay, this is the government that we really need to trust and give our votes and take to number one, Marina Parade, to run the affairs of us and our children.
Okay. Well, Gambia and Gambians and diasporans and, wherever you may be in the world, this is a maiden edition, as I said, Joy's Intellectual spot. It's a spot where we'll be very generous and very optimistic with every person that we speak with, because being a good listener, if we knew much, we wouldn't have you here. And we allow our guests to speak and air their viewpoints, because by airing their viewpoints, then you could tentatively and truthfully get the major information that you're looking for from the person seated. And we are very euphoric to have you here, and we will definitely have you again on board. And
I'll be honored.
I want to say I'm very grateful. And guys, you've had Honorable Nene Freda Gomez digested. She said that in order for us to shift from the $1.25 CPI of the Gambia, we must encourage a lot of manufacturing. We should as well capitalize on the national export strategy so that we, build manufacturing companies in a larger scale, export, try to make things better for Gambians, build Gambia for Gambians, build it by the Gambians, for the Gambians, and then every other person can enjoy out of it. On this note, I want to thank all of you for, paying attention to us and being with us, especially with Honorable Nene Freda Gomez. Bye for now. I remain your host, Joy Mama, and see you next week on the same channel. Don't go nowhere. Bye.